today I'm talking about David Hume. David Hume's a very famous philosopher in philosophical circles. He's kind of a philosopher's philosopher. He was a Scottish philosopher working during the Enlightenment in the 18th century, and he was profoundly influential. He's quite famous in a way for influencing Immanuel Kant, who wrote of Hume that he had awoken from his dogmatic slumbers after Hume had convinced him with his skepticism of things like cause and effect. So that's all very technical. What I really want to get to is some of Hume's more basic and simple ideas that are no less powerful and important and interesting. And the core idea is that Hume got very depressed as a young man. He read a lot. He became a man of leisure after studying furiously for years and years. And he started to read ancient philosophy, and he read the Stoics. And he even started to practice some Stoic ideas. And he began to meditate on death and mortality. He began to think of everything around him as fragile and easily destroyed. All the property around him, all the reputation, all his family and friends. Now, the thing about Hume, the really interesting thing about Hume is that none of that worked. He felt that the more he thought about that stuff, the more depressed he got, and he began to rail against Stoicism. He began to actually write that he changed his views, and he took the opposite point of view. He thought that the Stoic idea of achieving apatheia, right, which is this idea of being without passions, right, ridding yourself of passions to get a calm, serene state of mind, that idea he believed to be fundamentally wrong. He believed that if the goal of philosophy is to understand ourselves, if the goal of philosophy is self-understanding, if you go back to the Socrates' dictum, know thyself, if that's the goal, then we should understand human emotions. He began to think that, we need to have a science of emotions to fully understand ourselves and what motivates us, and to actually find a good life. We shouldn't be ignoring or suppressing or downtreading our emotions. Our emotions are a very important part of what it is to be human. So Hume actually came to the idea that's often expressed in a simple dictum, which is that reason is a slave to the passions, right? So reason, if you need a reminder, is what the Stoics believed to be natural to mankind, right? Reason was if we were using reason, we were aligned with nature, and therefore we had to suppress our emotions. Hume actually came to a different point of view. His idea was that passions and emotions come first. We're motivated, we're inspired. Everything we do is fundamentally driven by emotional states. And when Hume talks about reason being a slave to the passions, he doesn't mean that there's a fight to the death between the two, and the passions or emotions always win. It's not like there's a devil and an angel sitting on my shoulder, the angel being reason, the devil being emotions, and the devil wins a fight. What Hume's saying here is that every decision we make, the way we're driven, what we aspire to get ultimately at the deepest level is ultimately emotional. And then reason follows, and reason is only used to modify or moderate what our drives that have their basis in the soup of emotions that fill us. And we try to put our finger on what these emotions or passions are. We use words like gut feelings or intuitions or instincts, and we can't quite put our finger on it. And that's part of the point. With reason we can analyze, we can break things down, but we really struggle to do that when we actually think about what motivates us. And Hume believed that we can't really convince people, we can't change people's minds through reason alone. We have to appeal to their emotional states. So not only do we understand ourselves through understanding our emotions more, we also to understand politics, to understand our social obligations, we need to understand that people are driven by emotions. So, you know, if you take a look at politicians, they know this very well, even if intuitively. Look at, say, Donald Trump, you know, this kind of great salesman who really tries to connect with people's deepest fears and people's wildest desires in order to achieve what he wants. And no matter what you think of Donald Trump, you know, if you think he's bad or evil or good, no one can actually argue with the idea that he's a great, you know, he's great at rhetoric. He uses very simple soundbitey language to get to people's emotions. I think that really speaks to the correctness of Hume's viewpoint, Hume's philosophy. You know, no politician is going to win power by simply reasoning with the population, and I think that's a key point. And this is ultimately the lesson of Hume, that it runs against Stoicism but doesn't fully contradict Stoicism, right? If you look at the Stoicism of Seneca, for example, right, the great Stoic psychologist, Seneca fully acknowledged that we're driven by emotions, but that reason was very useful in bridling those emotions and making sure that they don't get out of control and damage us. And that kind of Seneca's version of Stoicism very much speaks in a similar way to Hume. So I wouldn't say that Hume's philosophy directly contradicts Stoicism. It definitely runs against the more Epictetan Stoicism, which is about, you know, becoming a sage, getting rid of all your worldly goods and becoming driven by reason alone. Now, you know, there's certainly a clash between Hume and Epictetus, but definitely not some of the softer strands of Stoicism that we see in Seneca. So I thought that was just a really interesting way of looking at Stoicism and the philosophy of David Hume. I hope you found that really useful. I hope to be posting more videos in the near future, so please follow, subscribe, like, whatever it is the YouTube algorithm wants you to do. Thank you so much.